Thank you very much, Edas, and just realizing this was the start of the recording. Thanks very much, Edas, and thanks, Tor. You thanked me for organizing it. I didn't do anything in organizing this. This was all done by you. So credits go to you for making this webinar happen. Thank you for the kind introduction and to speak here today. I've noticed you've invited me for the third time to speak already, so hopefully I'm doing something right. My name is Alexander Ochs. I'm heading a Berlin consultancy called SD Strategies. I'm also a senior fellow at the where until recently I directed the climate and energy team, and some of the work we're presenting here today is from my time in that. I'm sharing the energy working group of the LEDS Global Partner. I'm going to introduce to you briefly in just a moment. What I'll present to you today will be the LEDS Energy, which is assembling different instruments and methodologies for sustainable energy planning. And I will then focus after a general introduction to the then focus on several tools in the toolkit that have specific relevance for city planners. Here's a disclaimer. It's important to mention that the LEDS Global Partnership does not endorse or recommend specific products or services over others. So information that we provide and information that's provided in this presentation is featured transparently on the LEDS Global Partnership website as one of many best practice resources that we are selecting, we're communicating and disseminating broadly. So we're not recommending a specific tool or an organization over another. The tools that I'm presenting today are all very valid, and there are many others amongst them, beyond them. So trying to jump to the next page here. Here we go. Brief introduction to the LEDS Global Partnership. The LEDS Global Partnership was founded some 7 years ago on initiative of the US government. It is an international initiative that brings many funders together to jointly support in developing countries, governments, country teams, technical experts. It tries to harness the collective knowledge and resources of technical assistance providers, of governments, of international organizations, of practitioners from different origins, and it uses this collective knowledge to try to scale up and strengthen climate resilient and low emission development around the world. There's now more than 160 countries that are engaged in the LEDS Global Partnership, plus international donor and technical organizations. The center of gravity of the LEDS Global Partnership is really in the regional platforms like the LEDS-EEP that Edas and his colleagues lead, and us as the technical working groups working on individual sectors or specific issue areas of, for one example, federal, sub-federal policy integration. We are really supporting the regional platforms, and then we're offering a few global go-to services and try to use our expertise to bring the regional platforms and their members forward towards the goals that they want to achieve. I am heading the Energy Working Group, as already mentioned. As a chair, I have co-chairs from all 4 main regional platforms. So that's Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Asia, and Eastern Europe. We now have members that, of course, engage at a very different level of intensity. Some of them just listening in on calls. others are playing active roles in our project. What we do with the Energy Working Group is to promote low emission and climate resilient development, specifically, of course, in the energy sector. And we do this through communicating best practices, through providing technical assistance, and through finding new ways for countries and regions to collaborate and to coordinate their activities for joint gains. Here is briefly the 2017 work plan. I want to highlight 4 main areas. As every year, we're supporting the regional platforms where we are conducting, facilitating sessions at those platform meetings. We participate in webinars like the one we're doing here and right now. So that's all.
Hello, Alexander. Alexander.
Countries find
Alexander. Hi, Alexander.
Am I back online?
Yes, you're back online. We
Yes.
lost you there for a second.
Okay. So let me pull up my presentation again. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. All right. So I was talking about the support for the regional platforms. I was talking about the assistance that we provide to countries and regions, or our role in matching them with others who have the resources to provide those the assistance that's being sought. A majority of this year is for the first time our focus on communities of practice, and that's something that I want to explain what these are. The communities of practice are really a new approach for countries on strategy building and policy making, rather than the conventional way of top-down, often north-south technical assistance. In the COPs, we're trying to bring decision makers in countries, developing countries mostly, together. And we that offers about a specific issue that shares some same goals and aspirations in that they want to build a more sustainable energy system, work together then on a specific strategy or a specific policy towards that goal. And us as the Energy Working Group, in close cooperation with the regional platforms and often other partners, are facilitating a process where these countries can learn from one another. Countries there that are in the driving seat, they dominate the process, and as the LEDS Global Partnership, we act as co-pilots in the process. So we try to produce a process in which we move on these issues together. And we're bringing in experts and expertise really where countries find they need them, they need it the most. So that's the communities of practice. Briefly, the issues we started with the first pilot on bioenergy. It says here on the screen, it's really bioelectricity in Latin America and the Caribbean last year, and it has been a very successful project. And so we've gone with our 5 countries in that region into a second year of advancing bioelectricity through strategies and policies and measures in their countries. In Africa, we're working on mini grids and specifically on accelerating rural electrification through mini grids. In Asia, we play rather a supporting role, not a lead role, but a supporting role on a community of practice on renewable energy integration. And together with Edas and his colleagues, we're hoping to look into priority issues in the EEP region and trying to scope out what a community of practice could focus on there, what's of highest interest, what's a high priority to the EEP members. And then finally, the fourth area that I wanted to focus on is the one in which I see the Energy LEDS Toolkit situated. So that those are global knowledge products. It's case studies that we share with countries that we believe are particularly lend themselves particularly to learning effects elsewhere. So countries can see what others are doing and learn from their successes and their failures. These case studies we hope to eventually showcase in an Energy and Development World Atlas, which will have all the cases that we've looked into from all over the world, and present those in an easily accessible manner. But it's the LEDS Toolkit that I wanted to talk about, and so here again is the cover from the 2016 issue, from the issue from last year. What is the toolkit? It is really a very simple, easily accessible guide for tools for low emission development strategy planning that are well established and that have been proven to be helpful in helping countries design their LED strategies. There is a focus on tools that are available at low. Actually, most of them are free, that are at no cost. In the 2016 version from less than a year ago, November last year, we assembled 26 tools. It's the Toolkit 2.0, meaning it's the second edition. So we came out 15 with about 20 tools. It is updated and extended annually, and eventually we're hoping for it to become an online in which you can search for specific parameters, and the toolkit then presents what tools can help you with work in that very area. I have the link on here where you can download it. If you just do a Google search, you'll find it. It received more than 2,000 downloads already since it was issued in November last year, which I think for a rather technical toolkit like this is quite exciting. But I have the link also on my final slide if you want to copy it. So here is an overview of the tools from last year. An improvement from the first edition has been that we categorize tools. This is not at all an easy task. It's actually quite challenging because many of these tools cover multiple issues. They're cross-sectoral, and they are really relevant in different categories. But still, we thought, rather than just having the tools in there in an alphabetic order, it's good for us to try to find, assemble them within categories in which they mostly fall. And you see the 7 different categories on your screen right now. There's tools that focus mostly on costs and benefits of different energy pathways. There are some that are focused on consumption, on demand, and energy efficiency. They are specifically into the environmental impacts, whether that's climate or local air and water emissions. There are some that focus particularly on the investment side of energy decisions. We have 2 tools in there, and one of them I'll present in a moment, that focus on gender impacts of energy decision making. A tool there that's specifically focusing on geo assessments, the different the resource potential of different energy resources, renewable resources, and in a given place, and uses a tool for it. And then there are multiple integrated tools where really categorization was impossible. That's still the longest list that you find to the bottom right of your screen. And now what we've done for this webinar is we have looked into which tools are particularly relevant at the city level. And those are the ones that you find in front of you in bold letters now. And I want to use the remainder of my time before we go to questions and answers to really focus on these tools that we believe have a specific added value and a specific relevance at the city level. So the first tool I'd like to highlight is a tool that's called Energy Plus. It's a building energy simulation program that is free and open source. It has been developed by the U.S. Department of Energy, and maybe I can use the screen to show how the toolkit entries are structured. Again, it's a very simple reference guide. The main purpose of which is introducing different tools that can be used and that then point you to where to find them, who you are talking to. So we usually list contact information of the tool stewards so that you can contact them and discuss with them how valuable they are for your purpose. All tool entries follow basically the same format. There is a screenshot of how the tool looks like. If you open it from you will see who has made it and who oversees it. And as I mentioned, you have their contacts. It tells you how much it costs to use them, who are the typical clients. And then it's talking about what data input it needs and what outputs you can expect. So what does the tool then really provide you with as an outcome, as an output? And we also provide some information on who has already used it in case you want to contact earlier users to see what they have been able to achieve with it. So back to this specific tool, Energy Plus. Energy Plus is a tool that allows users to model both energy consumption and water use in buildings. And this can be done in user-defined time steps, for example, on an hourly or a sub-hourly basis, to give a very clear picture of how heating, cooling, water, and electricity demands behave over time in an existing or in a yet-to-be-built building. Energy Plus has been used to characterize the city's building stocks in a project well known to many called InSmart, which is a collaborative effort of 4 cities: Evora in Portugal, Nottingham in the United Kingdom, Deca Trikla in Greece, and Cesena in Italy. A second tool that I want to tell you about is a tool called TRACE. TRACE stands for Tool for Rapid Assessment of City Energy. TRACE is a tool that is designed specifically for cities. It's a decision support tool that helps city planners to identify underperforming sectors from an energy perspective, underperforming sectors, and to evaluate the potential for a number of different indicators, most importantly, the cost saving potential. So it helps city decision makers then to prioritize sectors and actions for energy efficiency intervention. There are 6 municipal sectors that are transport, buildings, water and waste, public lighting, solid waste, and power and heat. It's a successful tool that has been used in over 20 cities across 14 countries worldwide, including Nairobi, Skopje, Belgrade, and Colombo in Sri Lanka. Another tool is the HEAT Plus tool. HEAT standing for Harmonized Emissions Analysis Tool Plus. And HEAT Plus helps local governments to make informed climate action decisions and identify the most effective measures in emissions and pollutant abatement. So it has a very specific focus on emissions analysis. HEAT Plus has been used by local governments this is standing of end of last year in 11 countries and regions, including in India, the USA, the EU, China, and Brazil. The goal is to both improve air quality and climate emissions, and on the other hand, to save money and monitor overall progress on your renewable energy and energy efficiency actions. The next tool is called FinPlan by the International Atomic Energy Agency. FinPlan is a model for financial analysis of electric sector expansion plans. It helps to assess the financial viability of plans and projects. It takes into account different financial sources, including export credits, commercial loans, bonds, equity, and even such modern instruments like swaps. And it calculates the projected cash flows and provides you with a balance sheet and financial ratios and a host of other financial indicators for those investments. FinPlan is also used broadly in more than 40 countries overall, and more than 20 of them are developing countries. 4 international organizations, regional organizations, have used FinPlan to model their financial investments. Another very helpful tool is one that measures gender impacts of energy projects. It's called Energia. It is not so much a quantitative tool, but a qualitative one. It's a handbook, but is very concrete, not just descriptive. It really provides step-by-step guidance on developing a gender strategy or a gender action plan within energy projects. It has been used in more than 30 projects already worldwide. Again, those are numbers from last year. This next tool is a very prominent one that has been used across 193 countries in the world, so almost every country in the world. Homer is a simulation and optimization model which allows decision makers to determine the best multiple resource energy system designs. So how do you what is the cost and benefits of and how do they play together in the grid? The goal is, of course, an energy system that can meet estimated or actual annual energy loads, along with economic and environmental constraints that you can take into account in this model. So it tries to develop a best solution, if you want, that can be determined based on multiple criteria such as cost of energy, return on investment, but also emissions and generator run times. More than 150,000 people have used this tool already, and it's very relevant, we believe, in the city context, and also on in smaller district or mini grids contexts. I have 3 more tools to go before we go to question and answer. So bear with me. This one's called LEEP, called Energy Alternatives Planning System, developed by the Stockholm Environment Institute. It is a very widely used modeling tool that analyzes energy policy and climate change mitigation. It has predominantly been used at the national level, but we believe it also had been on the city level already in a number of cities, Massachusetts and California, as well as in Mexico City and in Bangkok. Really a key feature of LEAP is that it's relatively easy to use and it is very limited data up front, and if you do not have data, it gives you default data from prominent sources like the IPCC, for example, on climate emissions. 2 more to go. This model is called SAM Supervisor Model. It makes performance and estimates for the cost of energy for grid-connected power projects based on installation and operation costs, plus user-defined system design parameters. So it brings those key indicators together in one model, installation operation costs, and then a number of design parameters that you decide yourself, that you decide on yourself. It has been downloaded over 30,000 times, and it has been used specifically on many smaller scale projects. Finally, this last model is being called TIMES. It's an integrated Markov-EFOM system. TIMES aims to provide a framework to evaluate the evolution of energy systems in response to technological progress and alternative policies from a least cost perspective. The goal is then to identify optimal development pathways for your municipality or for your entity of decision making. It has been used for investigations in the Basilicata region in Italy, and also in the city of Uppsala in Sweden. Okay, I'm gonna finish with the tools here. To sum up, most tools that we have found and that are highlighted in the LEDS toolkit have been focused either on a national level or on a project level. But we believe that the integrated nature really of energy of these energy projects at the city level becomes very interesting. And we believe that cities really and municipalities often sit in the sweet spot between what are national plans and national goals and what is individual projects. We know that 80% of climate emissions are depending are related to cities, and so cities have to play really a key role in solving this enormous problem, and they also have to play that role just strategies in the energy sector. This is where most of the demand, most of the consumption is, and so they have to play a more more active role, and we will continue to focus on cities' energy use and on tools that can help city decision makers. I forgot there's one more slide here. And I'm really excited, I think, to present it because we have just made a decision to extend this year's toolkit and give it a specific focus on cities, not exclusively, but as a sort of a special edition that focuses on specifically on adding new tools that are relevant in the city context, and you find these additional thing to add in this year's version on your screen. I don't run through the individual tools now, but if you are interested, or if you are yourself a tool maker and you find or do not find yourself represented here, please reach out to us. I present quickly the categories. So there's 2 tools on demand and on consumption efficiency, a second one on financial investment, one on an added tool on geospatial spatial resource assessment. We want to, for the first time, add 2 transport tools because it's an energy and not just an electricity toolkit. And there's 2 more categories, one which we as a working title called decision making, and 2 added tools with specific city relevance at that we would consider to be integrated tools. So this Energy Toolkit 3.0 will be published in the end of 2017 with these new tools being added and a number of other improvements from what I was invited to present to you today, which was last year's issues. Again, I thank you very much for that opportunity. You find my contacts on here. I hope we have a little bit of time left for questions and answers. If you dig really deep into specific tools, I might not be the right person to discuss this with, but I can put you in touch with the model makers, the model stewards, for sure. And with that, over to the moderators again. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hi, thank you very much to you, Alex. Well, if anyone has any questions, please write them in the chat tab that it's on the right panel. So for Alexander to be able to read them and reply to them. So please take your time and write the questions you may have. Anyone, any question?
Tor, you will be sharing the presentation on your website, I'm sure?
Yes, indeed. We have been recording it, and it will be uploaded as soon as this is the webinar is over, along with the PPT presentation for everyone to actually have a clear access to all the tools and links and such. We are doing that for every webinar, so no need to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm also asking that because it's obviously, a presentation that's on the one hand very broad. It's just an overview of the many different tools, and on the other hand, it's very technical and a lot to digest, and probably, because I'm just scratching sort of the surface here for people to look into a little bit more deeply. Just want to, re-emphasize to find my my email address on and contact me at any time. With getting to the presentation you might have, or for putting you in touch with the tool stewards, or helping you to make a decision on which tool could be particularly relevant for you if you can't make that call yourself. So just wanted to put the offer out there again.
Okay, thank you very much. There is a couple of questions if you open the chat.
I see it. Yeah. So the first one goes to, will there be any lessons how to use some specific tools? Well, in a 1 hour webinar, that's unfortunately not possible. Again, most of the tools are available for free online, and my experience is, I'm not a very quantitative person myself. I'm not an economist. I'm not a modeler. But I find it surprising how and exciting actually how good model makers have become in really making tools accessible. You need to make up your own mind whether every tool is successful in that regard. Some of them do require a lot of data input. Some of them do require learning for how to use them, but others are really very, very simple to access. And so a general answer here is very, very difficult on what were the lessons from how to use these specific tools. Maybe it really depends on the tool, and I would encourage you to follow the links that we post. Look at the tool, familiarize yourself with them somewhat, and then when you do have specific questions, to either contact us or the model stewards directly with what you have. And many of those organizations where that are in charge of the tools that we're presenting have staff dedicated specifically to support potential users, support users of their tools. So many of them have really the capacities available to lead you through how to use it, to answer the questions, and so on and so forth. Generally, maybe if I can say that, are there any lessons from how to use specific tools? Energy planning obviously is a very complex matter, and it's a very difficult thing to do successfully. And it brings main components together. There's always a technical component. What are your available energy resources? What is demand currently looking like? Where is it going to develop to? What's business as usual looking like in terms of energy load curves and energy demand in the future, vis-a-vis alternate scenarios? We're trying to restrict consumptions, transmission, distribution, storage. All these technical matters, of course, are one important input. The second one then is really looking into energy prices on the different energy pathways, and beyond that, important for governments specifically on the social and economic impacts on pathways. Are jobs being created? Are jobs at risk? Then there's a third main area, which is to investments, right? If the resources are there, if much in our and in many countries can be done at lower cost resource-based systems, then why isn't it happening? So where are the investment barriers that are currently happening? Are there investments being made, and what can we learn from them? So the whole area of finances and investment is, of course, the third main area. And then the fourth one is the policy environment, the enabling environment. What can city planners, what can national governments do to improve the investment environment? So to make sure that an energy system takes a path that's in the interest of the citizens and of the people of a given city or province. And so that shows you how really complex that is. So to conclude this thought, these tools play a very important role in providing data based on which we can make decisions, but they usually do not provide the decisions. You still need to make decisions yourself on what's the best path. Often tools show you a significant portion of a picture, but they never show you the whole picture, or hardly ever show you the whole picture. How to interpret this data still is the role, of course, of experts together with the many other stakeholders in our case here, city, that should have a role at the decision-making table and should be able to provide feedback. So the tools that we are presenting, we believe, all have the relevance. All of them have been successfully used. There might be others, or there are others which are not yet featured. We're hoping to add some more of those, but it's always gives you a specific data and information, very valuable information in a specific area. If you want input on decision making. So I've been long with this one. The second one, when you were mentioning countries or cities where tolls are applied, you mentioned only those which were based on these two sufficiency measurements were approved. Okay. If I understand this correctly, the second question is asking the cities that I mentioned where the tools were used, were those then leading to action? Were those then were the results of the use of the tools, was that relevant for policy? No, I mean, again, a tool does usually not tell you here is what you do, and it shouldn't, because we live in democratic systems, and our decision makers are tasked with deciding what ultimately to do. And of course there are many indicators to assess the impacts of one specific approach and one specific energy pathway and one specific policy or measure or decision or an overall strategy vis-a-vis an alternate approach. If that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't talk about energy policy. It would be basically a self-supporting system. But have these tools have they succeeded in having an important input? Absolutely. We would have to look at it really like step by step, to what extent then decision makers followed what in their view look like the smartest decision based on the data that they have received. That clearly will differ from one place where a model was used to the next. But I think overall we can say that the tools that we have assembled in the toolkit have had great relevance in the areas where they were used, and have helped decision makers design their strategies.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. If we don't have any more questions, we would like to once again thank you very much for your time to have this webinar. It has been a really nice overview of the available tools out there and how to use them and in what cases. So thank you very much for this, Alex. For the participants, I am right now writing on the chat section a link to a short survey for you to answer. If you were to have 30 minutes, we would deeply appreciate it in order to keep on improving the webinars we're organizing and all those aspects. Thank you very much to everyone for coming, and we'll see you next week for the next webinar on LEPS by Charles Gibbs. Thank you very much, Alex, for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.